Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Easern, singing and telling stories from the Salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that grove line on the hot dish highway. Down by the weeping willow where the lilacs they did bloom, there sleeps a fair young maiden in a cold and silent tomb. 'Twas on one Sunday evening gently fell the dew. Up to her cozy cottage her jealous lover drew. Oh, Anna, dearest Anna, come let us take a walk down by the weeping willows and of our wedding talk. Oh, Edward, I am weary, I do not care to roam, for roaming makes me weary, I pray take me home. Up stepped her jealous lover, and he made his fatal vow. No human hand can save you, in a moment you must die. Down on her knees before him, she gently pled for life. But in her snow-white bosom he plunged that fatal knife. Oh, Edward, I'll forgive you if this be my final breath, for I never have deceived you. And she closed her eyes in death. Down by the weeping willow where the lilacs they did bloom, there sleeps a fair young maiden in a cold and silent tomb. Well, that'll have everybody feeling better right away, won't it, Dr. K?
Off to a very cheerful start.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, that's an old song. It's not back to English antecedents that we can tell, but it's an older American folk song. The Jealous Lover. It has various titles, often localized to different places. You wonder, is that a Great Plains song? Well, by golly, it is. It makes its way out to the prairies, and we know because the text that I just sang, hang on, let me make sure I get this right, I picked up from the Joanie O'Bryant collection in the archives of Wichita State University, Wichita, Kansas. And Joanie got it from an informant named Mrs. Ima Van Natter in Pittsburgh, Kansas, who sang her this song on reel-to-reel tape June the 23rd of 1958. Going back a little farther, you've heard me talk about my heroine, Louise Pound of Nebraska before, her landmark bulletin from 1914. Folk song in Nebraska in the Central West. She's got the Jealous Lover in there. And so it's up and down the plains. It's better known as a border state, hill country, southern folk song, but it does frequent the prairies. And why are we singing Jealous Lover as recorded in 1958 by Joanie O'Bryant? We're celebrating her birthday. Joanie, who came to a premature end by automobile crash, in fact. And I talk about Joanie, I always speak of her through the lens and the recollections of my old friend Bill Cook of Kansas State University. Matter of fact, he wrote an obituary for her for the, which folklore journal is this? Yeah, for Western Folklore. And there's Joanie. And you can tell from this photo why Bill might have been a bit smitten with Joanie, as am I, taking a look at this photo. And everybody seemed to have been. Let's see, what's Bill have to say about her? Hang on. Joan Patricia O'Bryant, born in Wichita, Kansas, September 25th, 1923. We've had several birthdays here, and so we just got to Joanie right here this week. Died August the 14th, 1964, in an automobile accident in western Colorado. Joanie, as she was known by her many friends, and her friends were legion, came from Kansas pioneer stock, educated in the Wichita public schools, goes on to detail her education. She was teaching at Wichita University, now Wichita State University, and had just moved out to a job in western Colorado when the accident took place. But in the meantime, during a time in Wichita, she collected assiduously. She collected not only in Kansas, but also to the east in the Ozarks, which was kind of regarded as ground zero for folklore in the mid-20th century. Oh, it might be dying out in other places, but there's still folklore there in the Ozarks, was the sense. And she had her children, or excuse me, not children, she didn't have any children. Her students from Wichita University, they're also out collecting. And so I've waded through her files, and we'll go back and do more of them. I'm just looking over my notes. You've heard me sing the Brazos River, Down by the Brazos, and other songs that I have adopted the text from Joanie's collection at Wichita State as my text for singing. Yeah, Joanie O'Bryant to be remembered tonight on this episode of the Willow Creek Folk School. You got an agenda there, Dr. K. What am I forgetting so far?
Well, you haven't forgotten anything.
Okay.
Next, some chat, I guess, if you're ready.
Well, hang on just a moment.
Okay.
Don't let me forget to mention, on the timeline above, on the Plains Folk page timeline above this week's Folk School, you'll find a link to a painting by Thomas Hart Benton of The Jealous Lover. His imagination of the scene of that ballad, in which he has the lover about to stab his sweetheart. But down below, there are these guys sitting at a table with a jug of moonshine and maybe a deck of cards. I don't recall the exact details. One of them bears a striking resemblance to the fellow up in the other corner who's stabbing his lover. The idea being, oh, he walked for the murder, and now he's recalling it in this Benton painting, you see. Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of Thomas Hart Benton, oh, wait a minute, I'll bring something over here.
Oh.
You've heard me talk about my cousin once removed, Bernice Eastern. One of her paintings of the grain elevators in Ellenwood, Kansas. See, my hometown and hers, right? And I picked this up. Some other time I'll tell the long-winded story about how I acquired that painting. This is not one that she gave to me. I have others that she did. But it's not well known even among other members of the family, but she told me she went to study one summer with Thomas Hart Benton, the great American regionalist. And he would have these big mural commissions, and he'd have all his students, he'd put them to work to do the grunge work on it, right? Filling in all the backgrounds, that sort of stuff. And then he'd come in and do the glamorous stuff himself. Well, he wanted them to lay the base of this painting, big mural he was working on. And he was going out to do other things. And they asked him, what paint should we use? And he said, oh, it's over there in some shed or nothing. And they got the paint out, and they opened it up, and it was this lime green stuff. And so they started covering the canvas with it. They thought, well, you know, Mr. Benton knows what he's doing. And after an hour or so, he came into the studio, took one look at that canvas bedecked with that lime green paint, shrieked, and turned on the seal and departed. Well, by and by, the students were sitting around not knowing what to do next, and they went to look up Mrs. Benton. Well, where's Mr. Benton? You know, we're not sure what we should do now. And she said, oh, Tom's gone out on the barge for the rest of the afternoon. Well, at any rate, soon I start down the path of The Jealous Lover and Joanie O'Bryant and Thomas Hart Benton. Eventually gets around to Cousin Bernice, I suppose, there. Who's showing up to chat this evening?
We have the 3 M's. There's Molly, Marla, and Melvina.
All right.
I saw Carol Just was watching. I don't know if she's still in there.
Well, wonderful.
Carol Just, Bo Schmaltz.
Back again.
Yeah. Marla, Stan wants to know if you sold your wheat.
Tell him I sold 1,000 bushel.
And we're rolling in dough.
No, it's all going for fertilizer.
Okay. William Poley says hello from New York.
Oh, excellent.
B. Lanning talking about a beautiful and cool evening there, although it has still no promise of rain.
I thought you got a little rain down there, B. We got some in Barton County.
Okay.
I tell you should tell people what you're up to on Sunday. I could say, Dr. Kelly and I frequently travel together, but not this weekend.
We goofed and didn't match our calendars.
We'll be taking in the Bison game tomorrow together, but Sunday I'm going to preach or something. I'm going to talk at the Fargo-Moorhead Unitarian Universalist Church. Anybody who's interested in that, fmuu.org, fmuu.org, Fargo-Moorhead Universalist, Fargo-Moorhead Unitarian Universalist, fmuu.org. I think they've got a Zoom link, though, put up there.
Okay.
You might have to go and finagle and figure out just how to connect, but I saw that the link is there. If you want to hear my homily on Sunday, I'll be speaking on the subject of food and community. I don't know what I'm saying yet. What are you doing on Sunday?
Well, first you're going to practice how to say their name.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll know it. I won't have to tell them.
Well, Sunday I'm driving out to visit our friends in Ellendale. Not Ellenwood, but Ellendale. I've mentioned before the Emily Lundy art exhibit that the North Dakota Museum of Art is passing around throughout the state. The exhibit has been traveling to various cities, and it's set up for an exhibit in Ellendale. And I'm going to go talk about Emily Lundy, one of my favorite memory artists. So I'm looking forward to that.
And while you were snoozing, I loaded a link of a poster for that engagement on Sunday in Ellendale, also on the timeline about the folk school.
Yeah, that poster has been making the rounds. They keep the same poster and then just change the dates and locations at the bottom.
Now, you're wayward and gone again next weekend, too, am I right?
Right. So just a couple weekends ago, I was out at Braddock for the Thresher Bee and got reacquainted with all the letterpress equipment out there at the Letterpress Museum. Next Friday, we are 15 of us going out to Braddock to print our letterpress chapbook for this year. So yes, today I passed my driver's test for driving the 15-passenger van. We're taking 2 of those so that the students can take all their gear and we'll ride fairly comfortably. So next Friday afternoon, we're heading to Braddock and we'll come back Sunday.
And I'll remain here. I guess I'll stage a folk school next Friday night.
I guess you will. Maybe I'll be able to watch from Braddock. I don't know.
If you would, then come in and watch and chat. You'll be able to pull it down from there. I'll just be me and the dogs. I'll probably do like a greatest hits. So if anybody has a particular song, whether it's been on the folk school before or not, drop that in the chat line or put it onto the event page here between now and then. I'll be setting up here in the Salon on Willow Creek with nothing but dog help.
Oh, well, you'll be in good good hands.
Yeah. Okay, enough with the announcements and stuff. Oh, another thing on that timeline you're going to find, I loaded a whole bunch of stuff in there that would be mentioning, is a painting by Charlie Russell, the cowboy artist. And it's called Waiting for a Chinook, sometimes known as The Last of 5,000. It's a painting depicting the hard winter of 1886-87 when Russell was cowhanding in Montana, and evidently somebody wrote him from back east and said, "How's the winter going?" And it was just too much for words. And so he put it into this, it's sort of a cross between a drawing and a watercolor, if you see it on the timeline there, Dr. K. Waiting for a Chinook. It's one of the most famous images in the art of the American West, certainly of the 19th century, late 19th century era. It's an emaciated longhorn about to succumb to starvation and blizzard, surrounded by hungry coyotes, and it's a bad situation. Kind of regarded as symbolic of a Northern Plains situation. I took that phrase, waiting for a Chinook, and began to run that through the newspapers of the day. I said, somebody had to have made that into a song. And you know what they did? Okay, I'm going to sing the song, and then I'll try to, you try to figure out what it's about. And then I'll tell you afterward. Most everybody's growling about the weather, kicking 'cause it don't get nice and warm. They say the cold we're having isn't needed, that it only does a lot of harm. They growl because the snowflakes keep a-falling, and act as if they had all hopes forsook. And if you'd stop to ask them what they wanted, the answer that they're waiting for a Chinook. They cuss the weatherman anew each morning, and growl if it's not warm again by night. They seem to feel the weather should be balmy. Say the weatherman don't treat 'em right. Now to them I wish to say it isn't summer, and the birds aren't singing long the break. They can't expect June weather in the winter. They must be content while waiting for a Chinook. Now I always try to please all kinds of people. I make heroic effort every day to give each one of our long list of patrons do what they want. It's coming if they pay. I have no pull or power to change the weather. I can't keep birds singing along the brook. But if you want a bargain in fine clothing that will make you smile while waiting for a Chinook, while waiting for a Chinook, come in and see our stock of overcoats, mackinaws, heavy underwear, overshoes, sweaters, caps, etc. Mike has it at 304 Central Avenue. And if you want a bargain in fine clothing, will make you happy while waiting for that Chinook, make you smile while waiting for a Chinook. Now, I expected some cerebral cowboy poet to be musing in a bunkhouse somewhere to write the song Waiting for a Chinook, but no, it was written by Mike Mullen of Mike Has It Department and Clothing Store in Great Falls, Montana in 1916. Now, is that a little bit of a disappointment? I suppose maybe. It's not a real cowboy ballad like I expected, but what I love is Michael Mullen knew of Charlie Russell's painting, Waiting for a Chinook. That's where the phrase comes from. He makes the title of this song. And he decides he's going to turn that into a commercial proposition, to advertise his clothing store there in Great Falls. Well, who is this guy? I am intrigued by people who make singing a way of life, sometimes a way of commerce. Michael Mullen, I find him in the U.S. Federal Census in 1900, age just 19 at that time. So at the time he wrote Waiting for a Chinook, he'd 35. But at this time he's just 19. Evidently his mother is a widower. They're all born, the whole household was born in Ireland. You guessed that already, I'm sure. His occupation is listed as a clothing salesman. He's working at somebody else's store at this time, so he's learning the commercial trade. Then it gets more interesting as you go down through it, because here's a whole household which has got 1, 2, 3, 4, a number of Mullins, half a dozen of them, 7 of them, I guess, and then the rest of the household is boarders. Now what we have here is an Irish widower, or Irish widow woman with a big family and several sons who are out working to support the family and their mother, no doubt bringing the paycheck home. This is a great American story in Great Falls, Montana, the Mullen family, and the Mike Hazzett. You'll spell that Mike Hazzett, all one word and no spaces, the Mike Hazzett store. He wrote other songs. He's evidently a baseball fan. He writes songs about that. Yeah, and then people wrote songs about him. If you, dear reader, wish to know the proper place for men to go to get good goods at prices low, Mike Hazzett. He didn't write that one. And all these others. He's got his customers writing songs about him. Mike has it quite bad when it comes to bum rhymes, but in the selling of clothing, he's up with the times. I don't know. I'd go there and buy a suit, wouldn't you? Mike has it. Balladeer from Great Falls, Montana. And tonight, Waiting for a Chinook. Now, this was a discovery song here during the past week. Looking for other stuff and ran across this thing. And I thought, we just got to bring it in. This is coming back sometime, probably in February, when we see some warm temperatures coming over the face of the Rockies and creeping onto the plains. We'll be waiting for a Chinook, and we'll get back out Mike's song again. That reminds me, hang on.
You have more crops?
I'm full of stuff. Or something. Every week, a new ballad comes to surf. It's like picking rocks in the middle of North Dakota. It's a renewable resource. They never stop coming up. Looking through the Badlands Cowboy, January of 1885, I've got a ballad, The Tenderfoot Cowboy. I even know what tune this should be sung to. It doesn't say, but I know what I know the tune for this. And this is coming back then. Okay, it won't all be just out of the song bag next week. We got a new ballad to introduce next week while you're gone. You'll just have to tune in.
I hope I can.
Yeah. Come all ye sons of freedom in the old Green Mountain State. While I sling my pen a little, it will not keep you late. But it's a Montana cowboy ballad from the Yellowstone in 1885. Well, I'm looking forward to that one if nobody else is anyway. And now, all right, we've got a feature song of the evening, which I think is a favorite of many people who've tuned into the folk school through the weeks, as are among fans of cowboy balladry in general. It's the ballad called The Trail to Mexico. Here in a couple weeks, I'm going to give a paper at the Western History Association. Sid Molly was listening, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you got your paper done, Molly, but mine is still going. We'll check with David on his, too. Nobody's got their paper done. But I keep finding out new stuff, and I just figured out cowboy ballads are fundamentally different from the other ballads of the Great Plains in the tunes that they take and kind of the templates on which they are patterned. More of the cowboy ballads are patterned after Old English ballads. Mm. And so The Trail to Mexico is early in the year, an Old English ballad, retreaded as a cowboy song. Are you ready to annotate it for us tonight, Dr. Kate?
Yeah, start with the provenance, right?
Go.
Okay. Whereas ballads originating on the farmer's frontier or with ranching persons of property generally can be traced back through published forms to their beginnings, cowboy ballads often are inscrutable as to origin. The songs circulated within a mobile occupational community without public forums or publishing organs. Texts are few because song catchers were few, and song memory faded with the passing of the range. Thus, the Trail to Mexico was by all accounts a song that circulated widely and popularly, but its historical and literary record is sparse. Notably, John Lomax provides what appears to be a cobbled-together text uncertain as to provenance. That publication appears to influence later iterations. Carl Sandburg provides a good text and gives more attribution than any other collector, but he and his informants follow Lomax to a good degree. Oklahoma ballad hunters Ethel and Chauncey O. Moore provide an interesting text from Bristow, published in Ballads and Folk Songs of the Southwest. The only period text comes from a Tennessee paper, the Sequatchie Valley News, dated 28 January 1909, and appearing under the title The Broken-Hearted Cowboy. Cowboy ballad scholar Jim Bob Tinsley may be credited for explicating the roots of Trail to Mexico in a family of English ballads anchored, so to speak, by the sailor song Early, Early in the Spring. Neither Tinsley nor any other scholar comprehends just how the English ballad came to the Western Range and was adapted to cowboy experience there. Nor does any of them identify an author, or even establish that such a figure as the ballad narrator ever existed outside of balladry.
Okay, if we're putting this one into the song bag tonight, give us a little more context yet.
Happy to. Tinsley latches onto the reference in both the Lomax and the Sandburg texts to A. J. Stinson of the New Mexico Land and Livestock Company as the drover to whom the narrator attaches. Stinson, in 1882, drove some 20,000 cattle into the Estancia Valley of New Mexico. Stinson is regarded both as a sort of founding father of Anglo-American ranching in New Mexico and Arizona, and as a figure of some controversy for his role in the Pleasant Valley War in Arizona. Some ballad versions give other names for the drovers for whom the narrator rode. The song adapted to subsequent trail experiences. All versions sing of cattle driving from Texas to New Mexico, shortened to Mexico in the song.
It was in the merry month of May when I started for Texas, far away. Left my darling girl behind. She said her heart was only mine. It was when I embraced her in my arms. Thought she had 10,000 charms. Her caresses soft, her kisses sweet. Said we'll get married next time we meet.
The first of 3 direct quotations in the ballad is a fragment from a dialogue between the 2 lovers, not a complete dialogue. The balladist pares the exchange down to the essential promise, or is it an imperative? We'll get married next time we meet. There is more unsaid than said here.
It was in the year of 83 that A.J. Stinson hired me. Said, young fellow, I want you to go and follow this herd into Mexico.
The second direct quotation is another dialogue fragment that establishes the authority of A.J. Stinson, the boss, whom the young cowboy follows obediently, evidently for years. It seems that loyalty to Stinson has primacy over concern for the sweetheart back home.
Well, it was early in the year when I volunteered to drive the steers through sleet and snow with a lonesome go as the herd rolled on into Mexico. When I arrived in Mexico, wanted to see my girl, but I could not go. So I wrote a letter to my dear, but not a word for years did I hear. Well, I started back for my once loved home, inquired for the girl that I called my own. They said she'd married a better life. There's 4 wild cowboys seek another wife. Oh buddy, please stay at home.
The third direct quotation, here beginning, is the first full dialogue exchange in the style of a balladic dialogue. But once again, it opens with an imperative. Oh buddy, please stay at home. There's a pattern.
Oh buddy, please stay at home. Don't be forever on the road. There's many a girl more true than I, so pray don't go where the bullets fly. Oh, curse your gold and your silver too. God pity the girl who won't prove true. I'll travel well where the bullets fly. I'll stay on the cow trail till the day I die. I'll stay on the cow trail till the day I die.
Traditional readings of the ballad deem the jilted cowboy a forlorn figure, doomed to ride forever on the cattle trail. The cryptic declarations and fragmentary narrative leave space in the silences for what seems another reading entirely, wherein the cowboy escapes marriage to the girl back home, stays true to Mr. Stinson, and goes back to the life he prefers on the western range, all the while absolving himself by fixing blame on the lady. Quite possibly both parties got what they wanted. Indeed, the Lomax text speaks of rather jolly times and comradeship on the cattle trail. Sentimental sympathy for the jilted cowboy seems misplaced.
I'll follow the cow trail till I die. Are you convinced by the new interpretation, Dr. K?
Makes my story.
Isn't that the mark of a great work of literature?
Different interpretations of it.
Yes, indeed. I love picking up these old ballads and getting about halfway through an interpretation of it here. And that's one of the virtues, from this end, from this side of the camera, doing the folk school. Suddenly about halfway through, wait a minute. This is not what everybody has it cracked up to be. This is a different story.
I'm just going to give a shout out to my sister out there.
Indeed.
Hello.
Anybody else showing up there?
Oh, Lindsay Flory just popped on.
Lindsay Flory, so good seeing her in the past week.
And Susan Warden Hayes from Cleveland. She says, hello from cool Cleveland.
From cool Cleveland.
Okay.
Not Cleveland, North Dakota.
No, I don't think so.
All welcome. Well, okay, so we're parting trails here this weekend, and I'm heading on one more junket without you Sunday night.
What?
Yes, picking up a couple students in town.
Oh, yes.
And we're heading up to North Barnes County to the St. Mary's Fall Supper. You've been there.
Yeah. What time are you leaving?
Oh, we're leaving 2:30 or so in the afternoon because they start there at 4 and they need to be early to start asking fool questions. They're supposed to be doing reports. I just get to go eat turkey in the crowd. So I'm going to do a repeat of a calendar ballad from a few weeks ago. We're at the very beginning of fall supper season. October, or the first Saturday and Sunday of October and the second Saturday and Sunday of October is fall supper ground zero on the calendar.
Oh, yeah.
That's this peculiar thing in North Dakota, Manitoba, and somewhat in South Dakota and Minnesota and neighboring states. Originally, some of these were called fowl suppers because it always involves the death of a big bird in order to feed a lot of people. And now they're more commonly known as fall suppers or fall dinners. And turkey is the common thing, a turkey dinner, but there can be variations of that. And in some cases, then you have homemade sausage being served. You can even have, among the Norwegians, lutefisk, with meatballs for the pagans. And in the case of St. Mary's, it's a parish just steeped in all sorts of tradition, going back for 120 years to the settlement there by German Catholics in the country in North Barnes County, and they planted those wonderful shelterbrauts around the stucco church there. It's kind of a magic place, St. Mary's, that complex out there in the country. And then the fall supper. But the action on the fall supper actually begins in August, when the members of the congregation gather in the church basement. That's where it happens, the church basement. And then somebody backs up a pickup truck with a whole lot of cabbages in the back of it, and they start pitching those downstairs. And they got the old-fashioned knuckle-buster kraut cutters. And they got a line of people there cutting kraut and turning it over to the mixing crew, which is measuring the salt into it. And then they throw it in these trash cans. And they got these burly fellows banging away at it with their fists to get the juice flowing. And then they cover it with a garbage bag, cover that with water, use that to fill and fill to the edges of the can, tie it up, and that weights the kraut down. You leave it you try to get the priest around at that point to bless it. If he doesn't make it, it'll turn out all right anyway, don't worry. And 30 days, after 30 days and 30 nights, then they'll open that up and serve the fall supper. But before that, they'll cook a bunch of pork roasts, and they'll see, you're missing this. And they cube all those pork roasts into that kraut, in the big roasters. And that's the side dish, which goes alongside your turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy and pie.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you're missing it. However, you'll miss next week. The week after that, we're heading out to Holy Trinity in Fingal for another turkey dinner.
Why am I missing that one?
Because you're too busy with your books. Anything before we get to the calendar ballad here?
Go for it.
Okay. Now they come from Seattle, they come from St. Paul. They all drive back home this one day in the fall. When it's fall supper time on the prairies each year, that's when all the prodigal sons will appear, singing "Tooralai, ooralai, ooralai, lai." Now pour me some coffee and cut me some pie. All the bachelor farmers are making the rounds, taking in the fall supper and putting on pounds. There's a hard winter coming and they need to bulk up. We do not begrudge them whatever they sup. Ooralai, 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 lai. Pour me some coffee and cut me some pie. Then the locusts descend every even-numbered year. Politicians are seeking themselves to endear to the diners, but instead of just taking up space, they should make themselves useful in the kitchen someplace. Ooralai, 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 lai. Pour me some coffee and cut me some pie. Now I get pretty tired mashing spuds, yes I do. Sometimes I fill in on the gravy crew too. Someday I'll be an elder, I'm longing for that. I'll sit and sell tickets and just chew the fat, singing to rely, oh rely, oh rely. Pour me some coffee and cut me some pie. Now some say that autumn is the end of it all. I say it's a time of renewal and fall. We can all come together at the table of grace, and we feel a lot better when we're in this place, singing to rely, oh rely, oh rely, lie. Pour me some coffee and cut me some pie. And we're about to, no coffee this time of night.
No.
No pie either, but there is
A warm, fresh plum cobbler.
Oh, a wild plum. Prunus cobblerana. Yes.
Easy for you to see.
A wild plum cobbler awaits. So I suppose we'll wind up the
Put a little bit of ice cream on it too.
folk school. Where the deer and the antelope play, where the wild plum cobbler awaits, where the coming word, oh, discouraging word, and skies are not cloudy, are not cloudy all the day. The sky cloudy all day. Dr. Kelly.
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again next Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time for more songs and stories.